What is up, my friends on the internet? Back at it with another video, and back at it with yet another new pair of glasses. I think these are the ones. They feel more me. Let me know down in the comments what you think. But nonetheless, we are here in the workshop working on the Scrambler 900 yet again, because right now in Atlanta, it looks like this outside. So I am impatient and didn't want to wait, so we're in here and we will make it happen. Today we are going to install a new skid plate on the Scrambler 900. The one from the factory is just a cheap piece of plastic. It doesn't really offer any real protection whatsoever. So we're going to get it off and we're going to throw on an actual heavy-duty skid plate from my friends at SW-Motech. And now that I think about it, I paid full retail price for this part and I waited a really long time for it, and my receipt was spelled wrong in the name section, and I actually emailed them about a partnership and they never replied, so I'm not sure SW-Motech is actually my friends. But nonetheless, a really great skid plate. We're gonna throw it on the bike. Let's get on into it. So here we have the skid plate from SW-Motech. I am going to crack on into it again. Spyderco knife, everybody always asks. I'm going to crack on into this and we're going to see what this thing is talking about. There is a factory skid plate you can get from Triumph for the Scrambler 900, and it does look a little beefier. It even kind of scoops up and covers the frame rails. I'm probably floating it on the screen right now. It does cover more of the bike in general, but I don't necessarily think that's better. The cutouts on the bottom where the sump and oil filter are seemed a little bit more precarious and a little less strong, a little less protected than this one from SW-Motech, so I opted for this. This one's also available in black, unlike that factory one that is only available in silver, so I am hoping it looks good on the bike. I'm trying to put more black parts on the bike just to kind of dull it down a little bit. Sometimes the silver accents can be intense, but it is heavily bubble wrapped from SW-Motech. Here we have the skid plate itself. Seems very sturdy. Has that cutout there that I'm hoping isn't going to leave the oil filter completely exposed. Front of it has some speed holes because we all know that is going to make me a lot faster. The branding right there is pretty, it's okay. It's got like a little protective sticker on it. Might look better without that. Let us see. There's that branding. Pretty good, actually. That is also metal, which is nice. I thought it was kind of like that soft, bubbly plastic, but that's good. Yeah, this one doesn't curl up, like I said, to cover the frame rails, but I've honestly never been concerned with protecting the frame rails on a motorcycle. My big concerns are the drain plug, the underside of the engine case, and the oil filter. So as long as those things are moderately protected, we are good to go. We've got some hardware here. Oh God, awful noise. We've got some hardware here, it seems. Crack into that. Yeah, we got, looks like 6-7 piece of hardware there. And then what looks to be a bracket of sorts. If I could get the copious amount of saran wrap that these Germans use off of it, das wäre toll, I believe. All right, got that. There's a bracket there. I imagine this is gonna go to add one of these things on. Let's see, does it match up with any holes? That kind of matches up. Yeah, these two holes match up, so maybe there. Who knows? We'll find out. Let's start taking things off. But first, a beverage break. This video is not sponsored by Spindrift because much like SW-Motech, they don't know that I exist. So here is that factory skid plate. As I said, just cheap plastic. This piece is honestly a pretty thick piece of plastic, so not cheap plastic, but plastic nonetheless. But this part is definitely very cheap. It looks like, for starters, we're gonna get these 4 pieces out. So I'm gonna get an Allen wrench on those and let's do the dang thing. Those 4 are out. And now we got a little bit of a floppy boy. I'm imagining there's a couple of attachment points underneath. I can actually feel them. It feels like one on each side. So we're gonna get those off next. It was damn near impossible to film even with a center stand on the bike, but this is the underside of that. There's a screw there and a screw there. You wanna remove the ones in the front. That's what frees it up. The ones in the bottom are just attaching the two pieces together, the center and the side guys here. These side guys are absolutely worthless, just pieces of plastic. This guy is honestly pretty beefy. I already have mine a little beat up, so it did save me a little bit. You can see some scratches there. It did do a little bit of work with the off-roading I've done so far. There's also a pretty good scratch right there, but speaking of scratches, you guys remember when I got a fly screen from Dart and it was damaged from the factory? That was cool. Thanks, Dart. I love you. That was a joke. That was a joke. Don't come for me, Dart. I got that attached there, nice and snug. Allen on that side, some little nuts on that side. No hardware in these yet. I'll figure out what those are gonna do later, because while doing that and reaching for my wrench, I realized that all of the old mounting brackets for the old skid plate are still on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything for the old skid plate off. All right, so bracket is off. I'm gonna float a little image on the screen here because it was impossible to film in that tight space, but there's 3 pieces of hardware there that I probably have circled in the picture. They're all super easy to get out except for that one that's on the left. For that one, I had to use this little bit of brilliant Puerto Rican engineering to get it out, but it worked. This thing is off now, and I think I can continue the install. It looks as if it's just gonna bolt up right now, but at least I see how it's gonna bolt up in the front. Now I just gotta figure out the back section. I'm hoping and putting this down and praying that my center stand does not interfere with this skid plate, but I think it's gonna. When I hold the skid plate up to the front mounting spots, this falls right around there, which leads me to believe that that back one there is my mounting point. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that out. I might go ahead and take both out and then just see what happens. So that's my next step, getting those dudes out of there. So I got this whole little assembly out. It was sitting in the bike like that. After I took this out, I mocked up the skid plate and realized that it is just gonna be that back hole that actually attaches the skid plate. So it seems as if we're abandoning that front little hole there. Stay tuned to find out. At some point, if that's not the case, I'll throw a correction on the screen here. All right, so that thing is completely on. All of the little gaps that I had to get hardware in are really tight, and it was just kind of finicky to get everything lined up and put on. So I didn't do a whole lot of filming, but I did take some pretty crucial photos that I think will help. For one, this is first how I had it mocked up. I had that little rig set up so that I could hold the thing in place and figure out how to line up all the screws. After that, I went ahead and tightened down those front 2 screws. That's super easy. They go into the factory spot under the bottom frame rails. Really easy, line those up perfectly, tighten them down. The back is where it gets really tricky. The factory Triumph skid plate does not work with a center stand unless you drill an extra hole. If you go to that listing on any of the Triumph sales sites and read through the reviews, there's a couple people mentioning that they bought it, they made it work by drilling an extra hole. I will do that kind of thing, but I really didn't want to, which is one of the big reasons I went with the SW-Motech. I didn't know that it fit for sure, but I didn't have confirmation that it didn't fit without drilling, you know? So I rolled the dice, and this time that worked out for me. As I mentioned earlier, I wasn't super certain that it was gonna work with the center stand, but it does. I'm here to say, with no modification, the SW-Motech skid plate works on the Scrambler 900 with a center stand, no special modification. What it does require, though, is tiny little hands and a lot of tool extensions. For bolting up the left side of the bike, I had to put the bike on its side stand off the center stand just to have the perfect clearance to get some wrenches on both sides to tighten down its hardware. On the right side, it actually ended up being easier to have it on the center stand to get more clearance and get everything out of the way for me. But both sides are tightened up. On the right side, I used this method for getting my tools on there. That was the only way I can get 2 on there firm enough to actually tighten it down and feel confident that it wasn't just gonna vibrate out. On the left side, when I had it on the ground, like on its side stand, not the center stand, getting 2 wrenches in there was fairly easy. I had a socket on the inside and then just a big extension with the Torx on the outside, and I used this one to move just quarter turn at a time. That tightened it down really snug, and I feel good about it. Bolting up the front, super easy, no issues on the front. And like I said earlier, this skid plate does cover the oil filter, which is great. That's the whole point of these skid plates, in my opinion. So I will have to undo this every time I do an oil change, which isn't super frequent, so it's not the hugest deal. I do foresee myself accidentally stripping these screws at some point though, just because taking them on and off isn't the easiest thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and have some spares on hand for if that ever does happen. If they even start to look like they might strip, I'm just going to replace them, because getting them, like cutting them out of there, drilling them out of there will be a nightmare. But otherwise, it was fairly straightforward. Like I said, I showed you pictures of all the difficult sections of this, and it bolted up. It looks nice, and I think it's going to be a quality item. It's still snowing pretty strong outside, so I'm not going to take it out to get any really high quality photos or video of it right now. That might be a short later. That might be an Instagram post. I don't know, but I can say it bolts up nice, it works well, even with the center stand, and I like it. I'm pretty happy with my decision. Off looks, it looks better. Off function, it functions better by covering the oil filter. Install sucked, but it didn't suck as bad as having to drill a hole in it. So I think I made the right choice, and I can honestly wholeheartedly recommend that you make the same choice. I can also highly recommend that SW-Motech and Spindrift sponsor your boy.